Where's the love? Where's the love? It's right here in the heart of the city. I'm Silas Grant. Got my man with me.
What's up, Joe?
What's up, TL?
Man, I'm in the building. I'm all right. What's up with you, man?
It's a new month, man.
Yes, man. October, man.
Yeah, fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah.
This joint moving fast.
It's been the fourth quarter all year.
Yeah,
like,
dude,
right?
I swear. It's crazy, though, that it is October, man. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I got, a lot to just on the calendar.
Yeah, this your time. This like good. This your time,
but
right here.
plus, but it's
birthdays,
definitely
yeah.
Izzy's birthday, my father's birthday, my father-in-law birthday, my grandma, her birthday with my grandma Lou, my dad's mother, her birthday would have been this month. My little cousin Brian, Barbara's son.
Oh yeah.
His birthday, and my cousin Auntie's birthday. Man, it's a lot. We got a lot going on in the fam for October. Then
Yeah.
This go by. Oh, Hanover Day gonna be this year again too. Halloween.
real?
Yeah, we're doing on Halloween again. So,
Okay.
pull up if y'all ain't doing nothing.
Nah, yeah, for sure.
Stop by. You
Yeah,
hear me?
for sure, man. What's up with your commanders, man? What
Hey,
they
look,
doing?
I was gonna lead. I ain't even want to tie. You
didn't wanna talk about it?
No, we ain't. We
okay.
let's just. I'm
Okay.
just. I mean, the whole league, the whole sports world. I just can't believe everywhere. Every channel I turn
That's
to.
y'all top 5 power
That's
rankings.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Shawty Jersey, they say they can't keep them on the shit.
That's
But that's all right.
That's
We ain't
all
gonna.
right. That's
We
all
ain't gonna
right.
talk about that. Y'all. I hope y'all get healthy too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Don't.
When we play y'all?
Oh, it ain't till
right.
it's the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
And then I think it's like I don't know why they keep, but maybe this year it'll matter for real though. No, all jokes aside, we got the last game again. That's been like the last 3 years they didn't done that.
Yeah.
Where we play y'all the last game of the season. Though. Yeah, man. They say raise hell, man. That's the new joke we
Raise
call
hell, I
it.
got you. It sound good, man. I'm happy for y'all.
No,
man.
don't be.
Don't be
Not
okay.
Yet. Not yet. I appreciate that, but not yet. Yeah. November 24th.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's here or down there. I think the first game in Dallas, maybe.
I would probably assume it's probably down there. Yeah, I would assume that.
But it does feel good to see, the Commanders doing okay, being competitive. Let me say it that way. But one of the things I always feel, and I hope that remains true though, is that the city and the people of the city can like glean from that. You know what I mean? In some kind of way, man. But I don't know. This generation, people ain't even. We've been sorry so long. People ain't Commanders fans, man.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple of friends of mine some years ago who have children that are of age now, like in the late teens, young adults, 20s, and it's like they didn't really grow up being, attached to the television on Sundays like that because of that.
What the other side of it is too, as far as I be talking to my daughters about like who people are fans of, in their classes, but then I had to think about the fact that most of their parents aren't from here.
Yeah.
So, and that's only rightful, that those parents pass on, whether it's the Cowboys, the Giants, the Packers, the Rams, it's people from all over the country, you know what I mean? But Izzy said it is some Commander fans, in her class. I said, that's right, boo. I got to get them some jerseys, by the way. Maybe that'll be a birthday present, you hear me?
That's it. So India gave Molly a Commanders jersey.
Oh, that's side,
She ain't wore it yet, though.
That's side, man. Put that on my niece, man.
It's on her. I'm going to let her choose.
Shout out to India for that, man. Indoctrinate them early, bro. Yeah, man. How you all right?
I'm doing good. I'm tired, man.
Yeah.
I had all that walking last
that's
month.
crazy, bro. 400 miles. You walk 400 miles in the month of September, man.
Yeah. Shout out to Reek, man.
Reek
had me going
No,
crazy.
but time out. What are y'all doing, man? 400 miles in 1 month?
So
is that the top or no?
You mean
ever?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I wasn't tripping.
Yeah, nah. So we started. He made a tweet one day, like last year, maybe in the spring of 23. Like, man, I can't never beat this dude Silas. I don't really be checking the numbers like that. So he made a tweet. He didn't even at me. He just said it, and I happened to see it. Yeah. So that next month, maybe like May, he won, right? Because I wasn't really checking the numbers. He went off on Instagram. And
I
ever since
watched it.
that,
Yeah,
every month, whoever win, go off.
Yeah, y'all. That
So around like maybe the 10th or the 13th, somewhere in there this month, it just got so bad. Like, man, I was taking meetings, doing work while I was walking.
Yeah.
Like the whole day. I was embarrassed how many miles I walked, man, for real.
Do you know what's 400 miles? Like, where is that? That's like from here to
It's almost like
Boston,
North Carolina.
No, whichever way you go. Yeah, that's insane.
But now long term though, it was a good test though, because I really want to do some long distance like walking, like you know.
I told you we're gonna do the cross country joint.
So like it taught me a lot about what you gotta do to be prepared for it. So it was a good month of like, all right, this is a test of what it would look like. So yeah, shout out to Reek.
Shout out, hey Reek, you gonna have to, hey, Reek, you gonna have to get a way to, speed up the walk, speed up the app, extra miles. I'm telling you, Reek, you gotta get back. Reek, you gotta spin. He did you dirty, Reek. Hey, Reek, you gotta spin, man. I'm telling you, bro. You can't let that ride, Reek. You gotta spin about this, man.
He told me get some practice, so I got some practice.
Yeah. Reek, I'm telling you.
But today, we have a very special guest, a very good friend of mine. Who has done some wonderful things in the literary space as an award-winning author. And wanted to have a conversation about that today with her. And wanted to welcome the heart of the city, Kia Dupree.
Yeah.
What's up?
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Good to have you here.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for making space, making time for us,
I appreciate the opportunity.
So I wanna go back a little bit, because you and I went to high school together and we went to college together. I met you probably like fall '94, spring '95 at some point. I was just coming into Coolidge. You were almost heading out. And I thought about this in preparation for this conversation. There are a couple of authors that were in that building at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. Did you know at that point in time that writing was going to be sort of like your path or your way to success?
Yes.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
Because I knew that reading for me helped me escape misery. And so I knew that for me, like just creating worlds was going to be something that I did regardless if I got paid or not. Like to me, it was therapy. It was a way to like control an outcome, in a time and place where I felt sometimes like I didn't know how things would work out just because of how I grew up. So I knew that writing in some capacity, I always knew was going to be creative writing, was going to be something that I did. Whether if I made money from it or not, I knew that that would be a success for me just because I was doing it. I will say that I was, concerned about how much money I would make if I would be able to live off of it. But it wasn't like a big thing in the back of my mind. But I was worried about how would I make this a professional, venture. But yeah, I always knew that I would be reading and writing in some way.
Well, let me ask you a question about that as it relates to, I guess, when you first, made that affirmation that, I'm a write. Mm-hmm. But and on top of that, what was the first thing that you, outside of a teacher or outside a school assignment, what was the first thing that you shared with somebody else that you wrote, and what was their reaction to it?
I would say the earliest memory was probably when I was at Shaw. I actually was writing a book, and my math teacher was my homeroom teacher at the time, and she would see me walking around with this notebook that I was, and it wasn't a composition book, it was one of the loose leaf type ones, and she would see me writing in it, and one day she just asked me if she could read it, and it was called Fast Times. I can't believe I remember that. But and I let her read it, and she actually typed it up and entered it into this competition for me. It was I believe Hurston Wright sort of competition, and I won like an honorable mention. And that was like in the 7th, 8th, maybe 9th grade. I know it was in middle school, junior high. And that really did something for me because, you know, my teacher liked it enough. She wasn't my English teacher, but my math homeroom teacher liked it enough that she did that for me. And then it won this $25 award that I had to go and get dressed up for somewhere on Capitol Hill.
No, that's incredible.
It was it really made a difference for me, and I tried to do that too later in life for some other students, like when I, you know, had the opportunity.
What house she was in Shaw?
The Orange House.
Orange House.
Well, first of all, I started in the Blue House, but there was a little situation with my English teacher at the time, but we won't get into that.
Okay. All right.
No, at the time, I was in the honors class, and I had a little rebel moment where me and some other classmates had an issue with how we was being taught. And we went and talked about it with the counselor, and they said I was the ringleader. Yeah. And I got relocated to the Orange. I just think I was the most passionate expressing my disdain, but I don't think that I was actually being influenced by my best friend at the time, Sherry. And but she got to stay. But yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the thing, right? We're talking like at this point between Coolidge and Shaw. We're talking like 1990 to like 1995, right?
Mm-hmm.
For people, you don't have to be from DC, but for people who are not from DC, that was a period where most people wore shades of blue, gray, black, right?
Mm-hmm.
People didn't take a lot of pictures. People weren't really expressive. It was a very like dark period, right? So to hear you say two things: one, have a passion for how you're being taught, and then two, to take the initiative to write your way out of your reality and create this sort of like imaginary area where you controlled it, right? That takes a lot of initiative to go against the stream of what society was like. What was going on in your mind? What was the North Star? Where were you trying to get to that drove you in those areas?
I think that's a very deep question. I don't think I thought about it in that way at the time. I just know that just for me to get to school every day, I traveled really far because I lived east of the river. And so I had to take 2 buses and a train just to get to Shaw because I lived off of Staten Road. And so...
And I mean, not to cut you off, just a context too. The Shaw Station John wasn't open yet.
No. Yeah. Not at that time.
It's like, people be forgetting, people be missing that. Like you hear us talk about reflecting, just think it looked like what it did now, and it wasn't those stations came, I think, after that period.
Not so toward the end, I think that there was, but I think it was Mount Vernon, but. I wasn't doing that yet. We was doing the 70 and the 90 bus, and I can't remember all of that. It's been a long time, but yeah, it was a lot of buses and a train, and so to get to school and then to be in an honors English class, and I felt like the teacher at the time was so focused on how people were dressing in the class and how she thought it was. Too grown, or she was a great teacher in terms of the stories the books that we read at the time. They were very, AP level type, novels and things like that. But I didn't like the way she engaged with the students in terms of we couldn't have our book bags in the aisle. She would talk about, girls wearing big earrings, and she spent a lot of class time talking about that. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't like that. Can we get to the literature? Yeah. And so that was something that. But I always look at people as 3-dimensional. She was a great teacher. I felt like maybe that was one thing that she wanted to, bring out in us, to not think about things like you were talking about earlier. You know what I'm saying? I'd be so concerned about things, but to me, it was missing the mark at the time. Because so many of us was just, as you stated, it was a very dreary time, and crack was really taking over, and we are in class and we here to learn, and we in the honors class. So talking to people who are already kind of aware of some of the things you're talking about. I was just hoping that she would just spend more time, you know, at that time focused on other things. But
yeah, that's still remarkable to me to hear that. Like, I don't think when I was in 7th or 8th grade or 12th grade that I ever thought about, damn, you should be talking about the pros that you should be talking about. So, you know what I mean? Because I do believe that, like, some people, you know, some people can be guided or whatever to certain direction, but some people kind of, I
guess
like
at
born
the
to do
time,
what they do. Because, like, that's deep to me.
I felt like she was bullying the class. And that's what it just didn't feel right.
I got you.
You know, like, we were scared to talk, and, like, she would, you know, there are words that she used that I can still remember to this day. She was calling students nincompoops. I didn't even know what that was. A ne'er-do-well and a Nimrod. Like, I had to look those words up. I still remember those words. And you walking around with these cumbersome book bags. They were Benetton.
Yeah.
They were cumbersome. Yeah. And to me, those were derogatory terms that could have really hurt some people if they weren't strong enough in that class. 100%. And so, yeah, I complained along with some of my classmates. And she was this award-winning educator who was on Nightline. And so, yeah, they, you know, didn't let, you know, change things for her, but I was moved from the classroom.
So, kid, you did mention that, let's call her Mrs. Nightline, did a good job in terms of, you know, some aspects of teaching. Mm-hmm. Do you remember, and maybe it wasn't even in this class, but do you remember, and I don't want to just say one book, but give us a couple books that you read that, like, you were super inspired by?
Honestly, it's so funny. I mentioned this today in my class. We was talking about literary context, and the book was Animal Farm by George Orwell. I know most people think I would say a Black author, but that book, for me, I couldn't believe that animals had this kind of drama.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a novel. Right. And so then when you start to realize that, oh, this is really talking about something greater, and then you can compare some of the ways in which these characters were making decisions to real life in terms of power and what happens once you didn't have power, you were oppressed, but now you suddenly have power, and now, like, are you going to share it with everybody else, or are you going to hoard it for yourself? Mm-hmm. Right. Like, to think that all of that came in one little book. That to me was really was one of the most profound. I actually started to teach it when I taught 7th grade. I even taught it in AP Lit. Yeah. And I mentioned it today in college. Like, that book was so profound for me. Yeah.
Or for Orwell, like that joint, and you know, I think about 1984 a lot, especially in these times with technology. You know what I mean? I be like that. But yeah, so Animal Farm and was something that you feel like that really was one of the books you read in this life?
That was powerful for me. Yeah. I'll also say the autobiography of Malcolm X.
For sure.
I remember reading that on the train. I was in this study hall program downtown, and I remember my physical body language changing as I was reading it on the train, because suddenly I'm paying attention to the people around me in a different way and noticing them all getting off at LaFont Plaza at the time, right? And then the rest of us was still on there. And I remember, like, reading this and feeling a way in a different kind of way, just about race relations in a way that I hadn't really, you know, when you grow up in a city at the time was so predominantly Black, I rarely had any non-Black teachers. Like, you know, even my Spanish teacher in high school was Afro-Latina, you know, so. Yes. So, I mean, I didn't really experience, I just experienced them on the train as I moved, you know, from Coolidge to Southeast. There's that little gap of time. And so I started paying attention in a new way. So that was very powerful for me. I remember, like, the piano lesson, just a lot of those sort of books. One of the first books that I read, also not a Black book, was Whispers by Dean Koontz.
Okay.
It was in my house. My stepfather at the time, He had served time, and he came back with all these books that didn't have covers on them.
Yeah.
And I just love
Good
books.
man, you know. Coming home with his stuff. Yeah. Sure.
So Dean Koontz, like I mean, I imagine somebody in junior high school saying they read a Dean Koontz novel, and I can still remember what it was about. This lady had basically had her dad's kids. And she wasn't supposed to. It was incest. And so she had twins. And they had already said that they was bringing just one child from a niece. And so they raised these twins to believe that they was the same person. So they only refer to themselves as me, my, I. Wow. Right? So if two people talking, they always refer to me and I. It was a wild book, y'all. Yeah. But to see how language and even just the complexity of that story, this, family issue and how they're trying to cover it up for the whole town and all of that. And I was 13, 12 years old reading books like this. And I think my mom was just happy that I was reading.
I was going to ask you, so I mean, you went honorable mention for the writing you did when your teacher discovered it at Shaw. You're reading these books. You made a declaration in your mind, I'm going to do this, whether it's a career or like something, an activity that's consistent in my life. When did you declare publicly to like your mom or your stepdad or your siblings, like, this is what I'm going to do?
I can't remember not saying I don't want to write. Like, I just remember always saying I want to be a writer. I want to be a writer. Yeah. Even when I got to Coolidge, I was like, okay, I'm in the teacher profession program, but I want to be a writer. I want to be a writer. I'm just here just so I can go to Coolidge and be out of my zone. Yeah. Right. And then it became, okay, even when I went to Hampton, my goal was to be a writer. But I was like, okay, no, I got to go into journalism so I can get paid. And so that's why I majored in mass media. But check this out. At Hampton, in order to... at the time, be in the mass media arts department, which would have been for print journalism, you had to test in. You couldn't declare the first year. And I failed the test twice. Really? And so if you fail the test twice, you're supposed to find another major. So not only did I fail the test twice, but I also failed English 101. Do y'all see the irony in this?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I failed the test twice, didn't know a thing about advocating for myself. That was something my peers... My Davidson Hall divas, they called a meeting. This was all my friends on the first floor of my dorm. Yeah. And they were like, listen, we got 2 ideas for you that you need to do. Because I'm crying. Because I'm like, I don't even know what else to do. I didn't even think about majoring in English. To me, that still sounded like I was going to be broke. Right. So I needed a career that I knew I needed to go into a major where I was going to have a job besides teaching. And they were like, we got 2 ideas for you. One of them is... you need to go to the dean. I didn't even know that was something you could do. Yeah. I had no, what do you mean go to the dean? You need to advocate for yourself. But see, that's what happens when you go to college and you have people on all different levels who've been exposed to.
I was going to ask where they from because that don't sound like nobody from D.C. For real, yeah.
These friends were from Baltimore, Ohio, New Orleans. Yeah. I had a couple of friends from Maryland on that floor. But yeah, they were all like, they were not first gen like me, right? Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They wasn't first gen.
They probably weren't the first. It wasn't the first rodeo. They were prepped or understood how this works. Because that matters, man. That's so important.
That's the soft skills. I didn't even know that was something. I was ready to just take my fate. And then the other thing was they came up with the idea that I should change my major to psychology, which I wish I would have done a little bit because we need psychologists now. Yeah, for sure. But I probably wouldn't have been able to write because of all the things I would hear on people's couches I would want to write about. Yeah. But I did. I went to the dean and she put me on a plan that included me going to the writing center every week and basically proving to her that I went. And then I ended up being, I know you know this, I ended up being the editor of the school newspaper.
I remember that. Yeah.
Right. So like to think that I could have ended up not doing this. And before, as a senior, I was actually working full time at the local newspaper at night.
So, what does, and I don't mean that, but like, was it just like subjective in terms of the test? Like, why were you, like, what was it?
I love my DC public schools, but I think my comprehension was good, but my writing wasn't good.
Yeah, it wasn't
My grammar sucked. I mean, I didn't really understand what you meant by past tense, present tense.
Right, you weren't prepared.
Ending your sentences and prepositions. I don't know what you're talking about, right? Even
and then on top of that, maybe you do, but the way they're saying it, like to say you ended it in a preposition versus explaining what that was, that sort of thing, right? Like
that's true.
You know,
you had a place though, you had an institute where it's already you should already like they're not gonna explain what that means,
right?
Type of, you know what I mean? That's I
didn't understand that about college either. That they don't necessarily teach you from scratch there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you supposed to already come with the baseline, and we just gonna enhance that. And so wherever you're weak at, it's up to you to go find a resource for that. But
and as a kid, right? Because that's really what it is. As a kid, you know what I mean? You only had the tools to do that. You know what I mean? Like, identify where your gaps are in the like film. Like, that really is something that, you know, I know even to today, like a lot of kids just not, unless they're special, unless they get the right proper mentorship guidance, they're not going to do that. Especially if they can't call home and mom, your daddy, grandma, auntie, whoever say, hey, you need to do this. If that can't happen, like, man, I'm throwing my hands up. Like, what am I do?
I could have easily gave up because being, first gen, and I say first gen I tread that because the irony, my mom, she had started college. She was in college the same time I was at UDC.
That's right. Hello, UDC.
Yes.
That's right.
So she was navigating what it meant to be a college student while being a single mom of 7, while having a daughter who was also now a freshman. So it was things that she was still learning too. She hadn't had a professional career yet. She was still in college. So there was just things I didn't know to do. But I could have given up, and that F in English 101 could have been it. And now here I am teaching English 101.
That's
Man.
it. Yeah.
Man, that's heavy.
And I think it's so important because, like, I wanted to draw that out because I know there are young people and maybe older people watching that have gotten their tires stuck in the mud a bit, right? At different points in their life. Tires still might be stuck in the mud right now. And it's just important to hear that, right? That 180, I went from failing English 101 to teaching it. And my friends pulling me out of the mud, like, keep going. And it's so many times, I think, when people have this passion to do something, they put their blinders on, right? Because they got to stay focused. But then there are some good people around you that can kind of like pull you. So you got to put the blinders down a little bit to see around you, and the people can kind of help you get through that. So I'm just happy to hear that, that there were people surrounding you that really pulled you out in that moment.
I really feel lucky to have that level of social capital, which I also teach that to my students. I was like, I didn't even know what that was. Like that there are people who are around you who can either pull you up or sink you. And sometimes if you have more negatives in your life, then you'll find yourself always victimizing yourself, as opposed to turning closer to the positive people and realizing that, you need to let some of the negative people go because they will keep you down.
You know what's crazy about that too is like 2 things I always think about. One, like, right, so if the help or the proper advice comes your way, you gotta let it in, because you could have easily heard it but not implemented it, right? So that also speaks to, I think, your character and your trust, but also your desire to get to the next level. Said, okay, I feel like they're giving me good information. I'm gonna do it. Even when you go to the dean, because we work with people, right, all the time, and sometimes it's like, we might say, hey, go talk to this person, and somebody will do it, but then when they get to that person, you got to the dean, now the dean telling you, it ain't just simple to come talk to me. Now you got to go do this and go. A lot of people at that point, they're like, man, you know what? Nah, I don't want it bad enough. I'm going to try something else. But you said, nah, okay, Dean, I'm going to go to the writing center. I'm going to do whatever you say, And that's the thing I hope that people who see this understand, that that's the work. You know what I mean? When you get the instructions, people want the instructions to be simple. They want it to be easy. But if you say that you want something bad enough, I feel like personally, you should be able to be willing to do whatever it is that it takes.
And sometimes they want you telling them the instructions to be the answer.
Yeah, that's what's right.
Yeah, they want that to be the answer.
That's the answer.
You
right.
told me, so now it shall be.
Exactly.
Versus you got to go do it.
You got to go do it. And then even when I send you, that person might have some additional steps, but you need to be able to take it. But then the other thing I see a lot of times, and I've been through it in my life, and I see it with a lot of the folks that we work with, what's so, like, I think amazing is when, you know, we certain the environments we come from, you know what I mean, people a lot of times are in sort of a negative lifestyle. And I've seen people in that lifestyle actually feel like they're telling somebody something good. Like they're giving them information that they're not giving it to them believing that it's bad or trying to sabotage. But what happens is that we're so veiled in this negative lifestyle that the out that you're providing is really just getting that person deeper into, you know, whatever hole they're in. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's I think it's imperative for so many folks that come from, you know, similar situations that we do to understand the value in building social capital, and that don't mean you have to eliminate all of your current friends, but you need new friends. And a lot of times with Black youth specifically, when we talk about college, it's always about education.
Right.
Go to college so you can get a good job. Go to college so you can learn more. But for people, because a lot of times the people that's saying this ain't been. The most important thing that I see, especially through our relationship, because I went to UDC and my classmates was your mom, you know, older people. No, it was old people my age. So I didn't really build that in college. But like I see through his relationship with all his people from Hampton, I see it over and over and over. They become my friends. But we got to start talking to our young people. That's why you go to college.
Because you're around 4,000 people
That's true.
every day.
That's just going to go do some shit in the world, bro.
Yeah, and it's like, because I had those conversations where, like, my major, I didn't come out and pursue my major. And I had people kind of say, you went to school for like 4 years and you're not even doing what you went to school for. But it's like, if a prominent leader in a specific industry had a conference and there was a fee to go to that conference, right? People would not think you're crazy for paying the fee to go to see that expert talk about whatever it is they're talking about, right? We pay the tuition, and instead of going to a 3-day conference or a half-day conference, I look at campus like a 9-month conference where you're around 4,000 or 5,000 people every day.
Yeah,
And the only tragedy of going to an environment like that is not building relationships, right? But it's a win-win if you just decide to open your mouth and talk to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but you're surrounded by that many people every day for like 9 months at a time. And then you take a 3-month break and you right back at it.
Yeah, y'all build lifetime relationships.
We have. I do want to say, because I talk about this with some of my friends often, that I feel like I didn't really understand the value in keeping the connections once I left. I don't know what it was. It was like I felt like, okay, college is over, and it was nice meeting y'all. Until, like, I always talk about one of my college roommates, Will. The next day after graduation, she was like, what you about to do? And I was like, what you mean what I'm about to do? I'm packing up. And she was like, okay, well then what you gonna do after that? I was so shocked by that, because I really thought, because I kind of did that with high school. I was like, okay, high school's over. It was nice knowing y'all. Right. I'm in college now. College is over, nice knowing y'all. And I feel like I squandered a lot of opportunities right after I graduated because I didn't continue to build or forge relationships with people who I graduated with. It just so happened that some people started reaching out to me later. And thank God for the internet. Like, to me, that helped build some of those relationships. But I didn't really know how to do that. I don't know what that was about, but it's really important. A lot of the success I've had lately has been from people.
The last time I saw you was Hampton Howard game, and moving around that game. I mean, here's a beautiful thing now, to your point about the internet. Like, it's to the point now where you might not have spoke to a person on campus, but they know who you are, facial recognition, and convos just strike right up. Hey, you do this, just make it happen. I had at least 4 or 5 of those convos where, like, I've already been in contact with people since that game about things. So, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it.
And I see people again, I see people also do well, like, you know, it might be a person that y'all went to school with that y'all might be cool with and might tell you, hey, you remember such and such? You need to, I'm gonna put y'all on the email, on text, because they doing this and you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Kid, let me ask you something about, like, I wanna go back. Okay, boom. So now you not only were you running the school, editor at the school newspaper, but you had a job at the local newspaper. I'm assuming as a reporter at that?
No, I was a copy editor.
Okay, so you was working as an editor also at the newspaper. All right. At what point do you and I'm assuming you're still writing, right? From the submission in 7th grade. I'm assuming you've been writing throughout the rest of middle school, junior high, and high school, and now in college. At what point do you say, I gotta get this out. I gotta get these something. Whether it's a short story or a novel, whatever. At what point do you say I gotta get something out there?
So funny thing about Hampton again, one of my big brother, we don't have, you know, they kind of like mentor brothers. One day he asked me, because I was sending out query letters for books with major houses and they were not biting. And he asked me how much was my dream worth. And I said, what do you mean? He said, how much would it cost for you to, you know, put your own book out? And I can't remember if it was $2,000 or $5,000. Probably was $2,000 back then. I was like, $2,000. And he was like, well, isn't your dream worth $2,000? Like, save up the money. And literally, like, I was like, well, save up the money? I guess I could save up $2,000. And I saved it up and I put it out. And because he basically was like, well, how many copies could you get? How much would you sell it for? Like, he showed me how I would make money right back. Yeah. And he was an entrepreneurship major at Hampton at the time. So he had the mindset of this could be done. Just do it. And so that's literally what happened. I just spent time writing the book and that's how Robin Peter came out. And I entered it, someone I know entered it into the competition for the American Library Association. And it won a Fiction Honor Book Award. Like a book that I literally was responsible for hand tabbing because I barely knew what I was doing with laying it out, but I hand tabbed it and it won that award. And so for me, you know, I was already excited that people was liking it, but to have that kind of recognition really gave me even more encouragement for what I was doing.
Yeah.
First time out the bat, huh?
Yeah, that's incredible. How did that impact you, right? So now you did that independently, right? So was the next time around, did it become a situation where you thought you're gonna go back to the major publishing houses, or did you at that moment say, you know what, the next time I'm gonna do it again on my own? Like, how what was that process like?
I wish it was that simple, but the technology just wasn't there yet. Like, it cost a lot of money to do it on your own in terms of like the layout, the editing, and all that, and marketing. I mean, that whole filling up your trunk, driving up and down the East Coast stuff, and getting your books in stores, it was time consuming. Sure. So I was just like, let me see if I can reach out to these majors again. And it didn't work that simply. They was like, oh, that was cute. You got your little award or whatever, but we doing big stuff over here, right? And so I was hungry. I heard about this program at NYU that was described as like a apprentice for publishing. It was like 6 weeks. And I just had this goal. I paid for it out of pocket to go on that was a little certificate program just for the summer. And I had this goal that before those 6 weeks was up, I was going to get me an internship somewhere at somebody's publishing house. And I did.
Yeah.
And I did. And it actually ended up with me getting a full-time job with St. Martin's Publishers, St. Martin's Press, which is a subsidiary of Macmillan Publishers. And I ended up selling my condo and moving to New York. Like, because I was like, I need to know what it is that I'm not doing and my stories is not getting. So I need the inside, you know. And so I worked my little way up from editorial assistant to assistant editor. But as I was there, I was sitting in those meetings and I was seeing what they was immediately rejecting.
Yeah, crazy, right?
And I'll tell you something else that's crazy. I looked in the little, what we call a slush pile, and that's where people were sending their self-published books and sending these query letters of books and stuff. And I saw Robin Peters my book sitting in the pile, y'all.
Are you serious?
I did.
Did you tell anybody?
I did.
Yeah, like tell.
I did.
Like
I
this
told
me.
my supervisor.
Who did this?
But you know what? The problem is that you got to follow directions. They said they don't take books like that. You have to have an agent. They don't have time. It's too many books coming in.
Yeah.
They would have what we call slush parties where all the editorial assistants, we just folded up these pre-printed letters, put the address of the person who sent in their book, and you stuffed them, and you did it for 2 or 3 hours once a week.
Yeah.
So you have to follow directions, just like you were just saying. You have to follow directions. And so I learned it was important to get a literary agent because they're going to speak on behalf of you.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they dog me even with an But I mean, yes, but you have to do that. You can't.
Yeah, because they're going to speak on your behalf.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so not only that, but because I was able to like just read a lot of the good quality of work that was getting that the editors were, falling in love with, it gave me an idea of the type of formula that they looked for. And so I said, I can write this shit.
Yeah.
I was mad at it writing that book, and I wrote this book. And it was called Wife-in-Law. And that book ended up having a bidding war, and it got me a 6-figure deal in a 3-book deal. So, but it was because I knew I could do it. I just needed to just do it.
But you know what's crazy about, not crazy, but was very, I think, symbolic of what you just described, particularly for Black people, right? Or those that just have not been a part of sort of the establishment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it go back to even what you were saying about like when you got to Hampton and applying for the program and failing the test. Sometimes it's really about, and I saw that like going to Gonzaga where it wasn't that, my counterparts were smarter than me.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was the opposite, but they knew the formula.
Mm-hmm.
How powerful that is to know what you're supposed to say. You know, sometimes I've seen even in life, like once I've got into certain things, I figured like, oh, that's what I was doing wrong. But you don't know that until you get, you know what I'm saying? And that's what keeps so many of us out. Because that's why I think it's so important for, we sort of wanted this platform to be somewhat of that in terms of like being able to give the formula, if you will, pertaining to various things. Yeah. But that's so deep what you just said.
And I appreciate, because I never really noticed the parallel in all of those instances that they literally, I didn't have the formula for the grammar to pass to get into the mass media program, right? I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? I know what I'm saying. So what's the formula for that? Okay, go to the writing center. They'll show you. Or here's the, this is the formula. I never know.
It's clear you have the ability. You have the talent. And I think, you had, we clearly know it. But I'm saying that to me, so many people in it, they got it. But they just don't have they don't know what to do. And then you got other people who may not have as much ability or as much talent, but they got the formula. And that's all over. That's in government. That's in entertainment. That's in law. That's everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Because they I don't want to say the cheat code, but they know what to do. And in so many cases, the person that you're before, a lot of times, they are, like, again, speaking like a lot of my Gonzaga counterparts, they're more likely, they're going to be talking to somebody that's more like them than me. You see what I'm saying? Like, so it again, it made it easier. We really be up against a lot more than we call like, oh, people not making excuses. It's really real. You know what I'm saying?
As soon as you said that, I was immediately thinking about the first time I learned about the Jack and Jill organization.
Yeah.
I was just like, what are y'all talking about? And then, like, to know that has been existing and has been helping people in ways that,
It happened to me 3 years ago. I'm 44. I said, what's that?
Yeah. I didn't know what that was until I was, because a lot of my college friends kept saying, oh, I remember him from Jack and Jill. Oh, I know him from Jack and Jill. What is Jack and Jill? And then to realize that that's how they have learned formulas that has helped them,
100%.
Transcend different situations. But yeah, information is powerful.
It is.
I've been sitting here for the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, just dumbfounded, because what you just said, like you took that job to learn the inside tractor formula, and that had to be a surreal moment to see your product in that shred room. And it's like, what I'm thinking about, though, this is the deeper thought that I'm thinking about. You talked about us as Black people, more specifically those of us that come from the inner cities of wherever we come from, right? DC, Philadelphia, Detroit, LA, whatever, right? And we try. It doesn't work. We give up. But we don't go as far as you went in multiple situations, right?
Clearly.
And then you get a chance to see why it didn't work, and you make the tweaks, and then it works. And it's so far and few in between where we even think to do that, or we have the ability to go that far. That's why I just been sitting there quiet, like, I cannot believe, I couldn't imagine what that would be like if I was in your seat.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's
like, did you ever take time to really process, like, I got this far to see the other side, and I saw? It's like an out-of-body experience almost, I can imagine.
You know, like sitting here talking about it, I can see those connections, but at the time, I don't know what it is. I probably get it from my mom. I'm always just looking at what's next and what do you do to get there? Like, cause I don't feel like I have enough time. I don't know what that's about, but it's just like, I feel like it's all possible. You just need the formula, or you need the resources. And for me, like, okay, how much is it to go to NYU for this 6-week program? Oh, okay, that's about $3,000. Okay, if I can stay. Like, I'm already thinking about how can I make it work. And then while I'm there, I'm coming with business cards that I made. And back then it wasn't as simple as it is now, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to have everything, all my information on this little business card, and anybody I meet, I'm passing it to. Yeah. And so to me, I was like, if I don't get it, I got a job that I go back to, but I gave it all, my all, and I'm still going to walk away with a certificate. And so it is surreal, like, to see that was there like that, and to see, like, even when I was there, how fast I got promoted. Thank you, Monique. Like, it was surreal to see, oh my God, I really did get a 3-book deal within like 2 years. Right? Like, I was able to do all those things, but I don't know. It's just, I feel like sometimes people have always believed in me so much that I believe that it's possible because they believe in me. Yeah. And I'm just going to keep going. So, like, I hear a lot of people, even now, they are always talking about, oh, how are you doing all these things? And I look at lists and I just be like, I just got to keep doing it. I got 2 kids who looking at me, and I don't want them to have no excuse about what they can or can't do. So just, if you have the means, if you still got breath in you, you know, and it could have started again with my mom saying, no, I want y'all to go to school in Northwest, and me catching those buses and those trains. I mean, I literally lived on Stanton Road when I was going to Coolidge. Like, that was a hump. Yeah, that's like, me and my brother used to walk 20 minutes down Stanton Road to get to the train because the bus would take so long, and then catch the green line, and then catch the red line or the orange. I can't remember anymore. But, like, to sit there and realize we did that day in and day out. Because he went to Roosevelt, but I went to Coolidge. But we both did that day in and day out until my senior year when we moved to Certain Quarters. And now I was a little closer to school. But, yeah, to me, you just do what's necessary until you can't anymore.
You signed that book deal, 6 figures, 3 books. What changes in your process and what changes in your outlook as far as being a writer?
I used to shy away from reading commercial fiction, but I realized if I wanted commercial dollars, I had to read commercial fiction. Yeah. Because that's where the money was coming from. I think that definitely, you know, trying to be super deep in my book, I realized, no, I got to cloak the message. That's what I call it. You gotta give them a little bit of the junk and then get the real in there somewhere. You got to sneak the real in there. And so, like, I've had that be one of the takeaways that a lot of people will say is that, oh, this is not like other urban books. I said, no, I'm going to give you that, but I'm going to give you some other stuff too. But I'm going to give you what I think you want in the front, and then I'm going to give you the deeper message in there.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
You say urban books, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like, and you say commercial fiction, right? As so that's and then you use the term urban. So would you consider your writing, or maybe you don't consider it that, but are your books classified as urban fiction?
So,
and how do you, if it is, how do you feel about it?
Absolutely yes, because it takes place in an urban environment, but that's all.
Okay.
Right? Of course, I know that there's a double entendre when they say that. That's their coded way of saying a ghetto book or a black book or whatever.
Right.
It's a black book, right? Like, I do want my audience to know that this is a book that they might like, but I also want other people to realize that, I mean, I'm reading fiction that's not primarily black, and it ends up being good. So you need to, you know what I'm saying?
No,
like, be open, be open to reading something that's not about your life.
One of the things that the reason I asked that question, because like in my space, our space, a lot of times I've heard people describe my work, our work, as being grassroots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on its face, like, nothing is wrong with that. But we've also impacted policy and legislation and done all kinds of just different things. I always see that the term grassroots is just not being valued enough. You know what I'm saying? I don't personally like that term, right? Because like it's
diminishing.
Yeah, it's like it takes away. You know what I'm saying? And so and just from my personal opinion on the term urban fiction, I sometimes feel the same. I feel like that's akin to how I feel about grassroots. Like, just because, like you said, just because it's set in or is involving black people or is in an urban environment, okay, why can't it just be fiction, though? You don't call, I guess.
I'm kind of on the fence with it, though, right? Okay. Because for me, like, even what you said, I feel like it depends on who your audience is, right? Because to me, to hear grassroots, I feel like that means it's certain people's hands not involved. And this is a real authentic situation right here. Okay. You're not being negatively influenced by greater power. Exactly, right? So I get that, but I also get what you're saying too. Like somebody trying to say, oh, I see what that little piece of thing y'all doing over there. Like y'all, I see that too. But I feel like
I appreciate that and I receive that.
Because, some things ain't for everybody, 100%. And if I go into a bookstore and it just say fiction, I need to know where my people at. I do. Because sometimes I just want what my people wrote. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes I want what everybody else is talking about. And so, I mean, even if it's something like fantasy or whatever, like I do understand that, we are not monolithic in the black space. So there are different types of things that can fall under black fiction too. But I try to not close to the idea that this is a category that there are people that want to read that type of stuff, And even my most recent work, it takes place in DC, but it's more like women's fiction than it is urban fiction because it don't have a lot of the other elements that people usually classify as urban fiction with like death and some sort of crime or anything like that. This one is more about polyamory, which is a whole nother conversation.
All right. Okay, then.
Polygamy, polyamory, all of that.
So that's just women's fiction. We can't read it.
Oh, no, you absolutely can. I'm just saying it's not, I don't think it falls under the category of urban fiction. So, that's what I mean.
So, another thing you just made me think about, though, is I think what's troubling for me is when let us call it what it is. Yes. If you call it urban fiction, it don't. If I say this is a grassroots movement, you know what I mean. But when the power structure determines or think that they can determine what that's I think that's what shakes me at the core. That's what I'm against. You know what I mean. So thank you for saying what you said because it kind of made me get to a point, crystallize a little bit more for me. That's really the point that I was making. Because just because you wrote it, it's not for them to say, oh, this is urban fiction.
Right. No, I get that. Yeah, don't even try like you trying to.
Especially if they haven't read it.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying?
You when they say,
you know what I mean. I think that's more than not. That's probably what happens in terms of the labeling of even with us. Like, oh, this guy, oh, he worked with, okay, yeah, he a good man, he grassroots, he got a good following, grassroots guy. What do you mean? I can be right down on Capitol Hill with you. You wouldn't know the difference. You understand what I'm saying? Unless I told you, we can do it on. You ain't never seen this before. That's how I be. You know. But for real,
I can
we gotta
diversify
stand on that. That's right. So I can write. You can write the urban fiction, so you can come back with the women's fiction. I'm sure you can write commercial fiction if you wanted to.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
And that's just like one of the poets that my students study. It's called 3 Ways to Speak English, because people like to say, "Oh, you being articulate," and she busts out and she's talking 3 different languages, right? And they all really just English, but one of them is patois and one of them is just broken English. But she's like, I'm trilingual. Like I can speak articulate. Like, so yes, I'm grassroots, I'm corporate, I'm commercial, I'm whatever. Like you, just like you said, if you have the talent, if you have the prowess in your field, then however you need to reach your audience, I feel like
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I consume a lot of personal development content, whether it be podcasts, YouTube, reading books, right? And I'm always reading nonfiction, mostly personal development stuff. But there's a person in the personal development space that I listen to who talked a bit about the power of reading fiction, like with intention or on purpose, right? And I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't really gotten into fiction. But can you explain for a person like me or for someone else who may not be into fiction the power of that specific genre of writing in terms of your imagination or your development, whatever it may be? Like, I'm just not there yet. I'm more like, I like to read nonfiction, but I haven't gotten into fiction. So like, tell me the advantages of it. Like,
and I can respect that too, Silas, because I just recently have started venturing more into the nonfiction space and realizing that there's something, because for me, it was just like, I feel like I'm being lectured to, but you just have to, your mind has to be receptive to that sort of input, right? And so like, I think I'm there now where I wasn't before, but I will say like, as it relates to fiction for me, do you enjoy films?
I really don't.
Okay, because that could be part of it. Like you may, at this point, just have a hard time suspending reality. Like for you, that could be just what you enjoy being in the real space, right?
Like if y'all watching a movie and I walk in the room, I'll sit there and watch it. But I won't just
weird guy.
Strange guy. Like I've seen The Godfather, the whole thing. I've never sat and watched the whole thing in one setting. I picked it up just walking in rooms, and so I'm not a person to sit and watch films.
You know I really love him, right? He's my friend. Cowboy fan. Never watched The Godfather. These are things that are foundational to me. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, go ahead, man.
But you know what? Let me tell you, I don't feel, you know what? I feel like the more I started, Richard, I haven't really been watching TV in like 4 years. Like I can't do it. To me, it's like I'm critiquing shows more than I am like enjoying them. And so, and I don't know if that's because now I'm doing more professional development stuff, right? And so my mindset is more around improvement. So now I'm watching the show. If I do, it's just like, I'm critiquing it as opposed to.
But I also wonder, like.
I know where you're going.
Right?
I was getting ready to go there too.
Is that a next step for you? Are you critiquing the writing? Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Do you think that might be what's going on as well? Like just subconsciously,
yes,
like.
I definitely am critiquing the storyline. I because I've always had a hard time rewatching any story, any movie, unless I feel like it's unpredictable. It's like the moment I can see where the story going, I don't even feel like watching it because it just seems I know what's going to happen, and so I just disengage.
You know, one of the things that I've began to like notice about myself as it relates to like stories, that I think I enjoy both as whether it's nonfiction or fiction. But when the story is too closely aligned with my life, I'm not that interested. Not that I not that I don't think the story is valuable, but it's like I know that I know that story. The intrigue is not there because I know. My wife was, you want to watch that? I'm like, no, I don't want to watch that. You know, she big on like even like documentaries and stuff, right? But I'm like, yo, like we lived that. Now I'm sitting through this whole documentary. I'm telling you what happened. You wasn't. I'm like, she 4 years younger than me, but I'd be like, damn, you don't remember this? Or like we lived this, so it's not the same intrigue. Or like and I watched The Wire every time. I mean, when it was coming on, faithfully every time it came on. But I have no desire to rewatch it.
Really.
But I can rewatch The Sopranos all the time.
That might also be like trauma.
Yeah, it could be.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because every time it's setting something off in you that you kind of want to repress or forget, or just it's not entertaining.
Yeah, it's like it's but I'm saying I think it's also about like you mentioned like the scale, the fantasy, right, of fiction. Sometimes for me is more intriguing because it's like I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm very interested in. And a lot of times with nonfiction, and not on the personal development side, but like stories, nonfiction stories, like I know what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Like somebody's bio.
Yeah, you know, it's like I already know kind of what happened there. So it's not the same. And I feel like that's the same for like certain things with me. Like people are like, okay, but yeah, I think, or at least, let me say this, I think this is important to say, or at least sometimes I assume that I know. And I've been surprised sometimes too when I do watch. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know
Put
that.
you off guard.
But that's the part that I'm the most that grabs me. And I feel like I don't know if it's like we can dish like when you think about a book for me, like from a boy reading, it was like all again going into like a dream space, a fantasy space, something that wasn't real. That's what books always represent for me.
I want to ask Silas, when you read period, do you see pictures in your head? Because I just learned that some people don't do that. I thought everybody did that.
That's you.
You don't?
No, if it's good, I see it.
If it's good,
I mean, because I think that's the mark of something good. If it's good, like when I'm reading it, yeah, I think I see.
So the last book that I read, every book I read pretty much is nonfiction, but the last book I read that was like a story was 50 Cent's book, the first book he put out. Was it
a novel or was it about his life?
About his life.
Yeah. Well, that's nonfiction.
Yeah, but I'm saying like it's a story though, still,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not like personal development to the point of like 10 rules for marketing, right?
I see what you're saying.
He's telling the story. The last book where I got pictures, Rich Paul's book. I read that book this year.
And you said you enjoyed that book.
Yeah, I love that book. Yeah, it did give me pictures.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that could also be one of the struggles, like because for me, I mean, and very literally, and I know this is kind of bizarre, and y'all know you're gonna laugh or whatever, but I've talked about this before. I've learned as an adult that I have something called synesthesia. Yes. And so what it means is your senses are so heightened that, for example, I hear I see the colors associated to certain words. So like that's how vivid. I'm a person who, when it comes to eating certain foods, I won't eat it because it looks like it might taste nasty.
Yeah.
Like it's
that's what you call it?
I ain't make that word up. Yeah. Synesthesia. Like it's a sensitivity to things. So like, I mean, for years I went without eating anything that looked like it tastes nasty. Like it don't matter what it smell like, any of that thing. So like there's a sensitivity that actually helps me with the way I write because I can describe things in ways that paint pictures because of the level of which I see.
Gotcha.
But I didn't realize a lot of people, our teachers used to say, oh, put on your imagination cap. And everybody in the class never really knew what she was talking about. I didn't know that. I thought everybody that they were seeing what I was seeing as she's reading.
That's funny you say that because my wife and I talk a lot about our daughter, and there's certain things that she does like singing and drawing. And my wife always says, I wonder if she's hearing it differently than us because she gets super attached to like music in a different way. So you bringing that up makes me think about that. It also makes me think about when Kanye's mom was alive and there was like an MTV Diary or something with him and her in the same room talking. And he was saying how like when he makes music, he makes it his mind in colors.
Mm.
So that reminds me of you bringing that up now.
And so that, to me, that's the most fascinating thing that I've been learning about education is, you know, I'm not saying some people don't have autism, but we're learning so much more about how people process information than we used to. When you would, you know, say somebody had, they would look at it negatively, and you actually realize, no, they do it differently.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they have a superpower almost because it's different than most people. But so like learning that about myself, and I see it in my children, even like their taste buds are completely different. That might be chemical too. We don't know what they put in our food. But to understand that could be playing a part in like how when I'm teaching, that there are students who are not making that connection because they can't see it, you know. Yeah. And I'm more connected and passionate about it because I literally see video playing in my head when I'm reading and what I'm writing. Like I get excited because it's a movie in my head.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, you might not be having that experience, and that could be like just different for you, but that doesn't mean that you aren't gifted in another way, because you can spew them professional development facts better than any of them, right? Meanwhile, I'm like, can you run that back for me? Sure. You know, like I'll be screenshotting his stories and stuff that he be breaking down and keeping it in a folder because it's like, oh, that makes so much sense when he say it like that. You know, whereas if I would have read it myself, I might not have gotten it the same way. So we all have something special about us that we just need to, like, you know, share our gift for other people. So
what tell us about, we talked a lot about, you know, obviously your journey, your maturation as a writer. Talk to us about you as a teacher.
I like teaching the stuff I teach now. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That middle school, whew, because it's not even about the teaching in middle school. It's they are going through so many changes of trying to fit in. So
got one in my house right now. So
oh, I got one too. But to me, like once you can tap into them, yes. I love teaching college though, because I don't have to worry about behavior and I can just focus right on content.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, I really enjoy teaching first year English because we talk about a lot of things that are important to me in terms of like, you know, race, gender. I mean, that's been my big topic lately because it's all over the internet, the gender wars. But race, gender, you know, language, social issues, we talk about that, read about things related to that. We're reading novels that relate to those things right now. One of my favorites is The Women of Brewster Place. It's a movie, Silas, so if you got time.
I do remember that. I do remember that movie.
Okay. Remember it came on like ABC or CBS or one in the night. Like, you remember when they used to do this?
Like mini-series.
My mother, the mini-series joint. I remember that,
I remember the little kid getting electrocuted. That's what I remember.
You remember that? Oh, yes.
I remember that part.
Yes. Yeah, so one of my classes, that's the book we're reading, and we're reading another one called Sula by Toni Morrison, which is equally provocative. But yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing them be surprised by things that are happening and realizing that these things relate to our today, you know, even though they came out, one book was based in the 1920s and 30s, but there are things that are happening there with Black women that we still see today, and so on with the other one that was written in the 80s. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
How do, speaking about just how Black women have been portrayed in books, is there a common thread through your books about, or are you attempting to share something with the world through the characters in your book? Like, and what are some of those things?
So, yes, you're right. I did not do that on purpose, but I guess being a Black woman and, you know, having a lot of Black women in my life, that those themes come up. And so in my first novel, Robin Peter, I actually tell the story of 3 different women whose lives end up intersecting. One of them is a single mom who's raising 5 kids alone. Another one is a college student, and the third one is a judge who is struggling with love. And so I'm just showing all these different facets, which I'm pretty shocked about. Robin Peter came out actually 20 years ago in October 2004. Wow. And
Happy anniversary.
Yeah,
Thank you. And when I actually reprinted it because it had been so long and they were out of stock. And when I went back to like reread it, my mind was blown at the things that I wrote about 20 years ago with my limited life experience and realizing how many of those things actually came into fruition for me and other people I know in terms of, you know, women who have careers who have struggled with partnership because of how focused they were on their careers, how ideas related to gender roles play a part in some of the decisions some of the characters made. I didn't really have a full understanding of gender roles the way I do now and how, you know, they can be beneficial and how some people resist those roles. So I see that. That also comes up in other stories that I've written about that deal with human trafficking. Silence deals with gentrification and a young girl who's trying her best to hold on to her community. And then Disentangled, which is talking about a woman who is a little frustrated with the DC dating scene, being open to the idea of being involved in a polygamous relationship because it's thin out here for these. Y'all got real quiet in the room.
I'm just like, that's fiction or non-fiction.
It's fiction, but it's based on true things. Like there are so many educated, you know, beautiful, available, smart women who are taking care of themselves. And it's just not enough available men because we can get into all the reasons why by design or not, you know,
why. It's still a reality, no matter what that's the reality.
That's the reality. And so like, you know, to see so many people, like, I mean, I'm hearing people now talking about they going to homecoming looking for their MRS degree, their Mrs. degree.
Oh,
right?
Wow. That's
crazy.
Because
it's like there's so many people who've never gotten married and things like that. And it's just not enough. It's literally like 7 women to 1 man.
So can we take a real quick break?
Sure.
Just so I can we share a lot of the rooms we in with young men. That we're trying to, you know, help pivot and get on the right track. And youngins, you hear what this sister is saying, man? Just get yourself together, man. It's so many amazing, beautiful, successful women, man, that's waiting on you to get your stuff together, man. We be telling them that.
Nah, and that's
Give
real.
Give the plug, yes.
The rooms that we in, we do that. And I remember a time, so Ed Fisher, Mike Powell, and I, we were doing these groups called Man Up.
I remember that.
It was boys 12 to 21. We did one called Ladies First, where we took the same age range for girls. And it broke my heart. We do a vision board at the end of each session. It's like an 8-hour session. They come in the room like 9 in the morning. They don't leave till like 4 or 5 in the evening, right? So at the end, we did the vision boards. And for all the sessions with the boys, it was like cars, houses, women, plural, right? Like they have a picture of like women on the vision board, right? And then the little girls, man, the session we did, all of them had like husband. And that's their vision. And it's like, the boys weren't thinking about that at all.
At all.
At all.
But you know, some of that is the programming too.
Yeah.
And I talk about that with some of my friends, how we are trained from a very young age to look for Prince Charming. And we need the gestures, which we know the gestures really is just BS, but we need the gestures of romance, which is, you know, you're not looking at the person, you're looking at the gestures, but that all comes with the programming. So, some of us are programmed at a very young age to look for a husband and that be it. And, you know, I'm not saying that wanting to be married is a bad thing, but it could be damaging if the husbands aren't there. They looking at cars and and things, you know. And so I don't know.
These guys they missing the butt, and especially with a lot of young men we work with too. I mean, again, you spoke to sort of the conditioning, but also it's a lot of guys we working with. A lot of them coming out of so much, their lives have been marred with just trauma. And a lot of times their relationships that they're in are also, they're toxic because the other person has been dealing with a lot of the similar trauma, and they haven't healed. They don't know how to heal. They just combative. And you know, one of the things that we talked to them about is like long-term success is really going to, again, be veiled in who walk in that walk with you. And that relationships don't have to look like that, right? And that's for both of them. You know what I mean? Trying to get them to be, if they're going to stay in that relationship, trying to get them to be a better spouse, you know, boyfriend, maybe possible husband, be a better person for that woman, hold her down, support her, all of those things. But the man that coming back your way as well. But if that can't work, just really talking to them about that, you know, you are in a city where, you know, there's so many single women that, you know, you might can find yourself, you know, building a relationship with, you know what I'm saying? If you are in a position where somebody will want to deal with you though, right? That's a life that's not involved with crime, not going back and forth to jail, blah, blah, blah. You know, somebody that's not toxic, somebody that's healed, somebody that's, you know, trying to go somewhere.
Yeah, join that book club.
Yeah, you hear me? And that's another thing, like doing more what we probably would deem pro-social things.
Yeah, social capital.
Social
that's the
capital.
formula, right?
That's the formula.
We put it all together.
Because there you go.
That's the formula.
That's the formula. Because for most of them, though, again, we talk to them as he was talking about a younger man, but a lot of these youngins like to see men like us that are married, that are active fathers on. I see them, they talk, they ask questions because I know that's what they want to be for real. But now it's like that's what we in there for, trying to provide. Like this is the formula. But when we give you these instructions, the same thing we talking about, will you go through with it? Will you work on yourself? You know what I mean? Will you stop hanging out late? Will you build new friends? Will you go to that training? Whatever it may be. And that's where the rubber gonna meet the road.
No, I love that you guys talk about your family so much, because you're right. If you think about when we grew up, that was not the cool thing to do for men to be in, you know, loving relationships with their families and being, you know, great dads and things. I mean, at least I know that's not what the propaganda was showing us, right? And so, like, to be able to see that example all the time with you guys, you put your families first. I'm glad that they're able to see that. And maybe, you know, just seeing the modeling, they're learning and they take those, you know, cues from y'all. Because we need more of that. Absolutely.
So we'll a follow-up question to the whole, we got talking a bit about, you were saying about watching, when you watch TV. I do have a question on that. In the future, could you see yourself writing a script for a film, or writing a sitcom or mini series or any of that kind of thing?
Potentially. I have had visions of that. You know, sometimes I get to the point where I feel like it's so much content that it's, I don't know if that media will deliver the same impact anymore, because I just see a lot of people, you know, doing things that we scroll to the next thing. Like it's like, is it resonating? You know, I'm guilty. I watch a little 2-minute skit and then I'm on to the next. And so I think about the amount of work it takes for that. And then for somebody just to move on that quick, like I wanted to sit with you. And so that's kind of what I did with one book, was like, I turned it into an audio book, because I think that you get more out of that right now. I'm not all the way there with the film thing, but maybe it'll come up.
But again, I do believe though, right, to that, like I do believe that, yes, I agree with you 100%. But then there still are things that grab people and hold them. You know what I mean? And I think it's imperative that we put those things, continue to at least try to put those things out into the world. Like you know, you get these shows that, you know, again, you got all these networks and all these different things, but then every now and again you get something that just grabs people. You know what I mean? Because it's deep. It has depth and it speaks to people. You know, something that a show that, you know, this probably, I guess it ain't been over season in maybe a year or something. But like that show Yellowstone, or if either one of y'all ever seen it, right?
Heard about it.
Dog, it's set in Montana. Like, why is a cowboy joint? But it's about gentrification. It's about, it's their version of like, street stuff. But it's about a family though, and all the dynamics in it. And I'm like, and I love that show. I would never thought. My buddy wanted to say, man, you ever watch? I'm like, I ain't watching them.
Oh wow!
You know what I mean? Yellowstone, Kevin Costner, in it.
Okay.
They went like it's a cowboy joint. They're ranchers. You know what I'm saying?
But those same themes still resonate. Yeah.
And particularly the idea of all these rich people from LA and New York buying property in that, like, literally forcing out the locals, changing the landscape of where they from, and they fighting back against that. I think that's what really
touched me.
And they cosplaying when they get out there, probably.
All of that.
Oh.
Yeah.
All of that. and they calling it out and trying to fight against it in every way that they can, politically, socially, all of that, right? So, but something like that, I hadn't attached to a show like, in a long time, because like, everything like, okay, it's cool.
Right.
I do believe that it's starting to open up. The market is in need of things that are real, stories that touch. You understand what I'm saying? So it don't have to be via TV or movie, but like, especially like even in your writing, just please, like, it's needed. Continue to share that, because the world need that, man. It's too much. Because everything so fast and so just whatever, like, you know what I mean?
The quality don't be.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's like, that's what people looking for too, though, right? If it ain't that, it's like, what are you talking about? You want to make people feel something?
Right.
No, we don't want to do that.
Right. And that's the thing. You got some people who completely want to escape. But I'm not opposed to it. And I do know that I will probably get a larger audience too if I use that medium, because certain people don't like to read fiction.
Hello. Young people.
Well, nah, Kia, we appreciate you coming on with us today.
Thank y'all for having me.
Happy anniversary,
Thank
20
you.
years.
Yes.
Yeah,
Rob and Peter.
Appreciate you.
And it's amazing to think about that, because, we're still relatively young. So, you might end up being 50, 60 years into it as a writer, right?
Yeah.
That's
like,
what
imagine 40 years from now, like, still putting it together.
I plan to be.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, just listening to you, like, I don't see, you probably can't, you can't do nothing about it. It's like one of them things where it just, you know what I mean? Ain't
It's
nobody,
nothing.
bro. Like,
I'm always writing. I take a lot of notes on my phone.
Me too.
Oh, you do too? Just look at you, about to write a fiction book.
Yeah.
But I'm always writing. Mm-hmm.
So where can people, before we go, where can people find you, and where can people find these books? Obviously, I assume, Amazon thing, but it's like, give us the whole layout.
Yeah, so you can follow me on all social media platforms at author Kia Dupree. But you can purchase my novels through Amazon. Some of them, Damaged, Silenced, and Shattered, can be purchased through Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble. And so, that's where you can find me.
Yeah.
Good.
And which one is the audio book?
So Shattered is in audio, and Disentangled is also in audio. Disentangled is my voice. I'm narrating that one.
That's your most recent book, right?
Yes.
And you read, okay. That's what I'm talking about.
That's it.
And that's on Audible.
Yes.
All right. Well, Kia, thank you again for being with us. Thank you for sharing your story, and specifically for sharing those moments where you got over the hurdle. I think that's going to be a good takeaway for folks watching. That was a consistent theme throughout this discussion, and I'm glad we were able to pull that out.
Yes,
for the
thank you.
people.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Silas, Tony,
appreciate you.
And Marcus behind the scenes.
Here we go. Yeah. Shout out to Marcus, man. But again, thank you all for watching. We are really trying to call out the leaders in our community, and to pull out the genius so that you guys can get a chance to get a glimpse at that. So thank you for always watching. Like the page, subscribe to it, and share it with a friend. Heart of the City, one love.
Raise hell.